So I came across an article talking about invisible entities and how this company supposedly can see invisible entities with a lens that they recently patented. And this is a legitimate company to the point where they are on the stock market. They're called Thunder Energies Corporation. Here is their stock in the last 5 days. Here is their stock in the last 1 month, 3 months, 1 year. Looks like they were as high as $1.50. Now they are as low as 20 cents per share. I don't have any investment in this company or any companies. So this I'm talking about just to prove it's a legitimate company that actually exists. Thunder Energies Corporation. Now, is it a good time to buy? I'm not the person to give any advice on that. I don't know anything about the stock market. But what I can say is this company might be pretty desperate to get attention and get some investors, because it looks like they've had a really bad slump lately. And they made an announcement, I believe, on January 14th. And they posted this video on January 14th, and they posted this scientific study of what they've been able to find, and it is most definitely paranormal. It is invisible entities. Here is the PDF. I will post a link to this. This is the official scientific publication of their findings. Now, I'm skeptical whenever I hear about proof, even though if you've followed this channel, you would know that I have had contact with some invisible entities myself. But anyone claiming they have concrete solid proof, which I can't provide, never have claimed to, never will claim to. This is their lens right here. It's called the Santilli lens, and they invented it, patented by them. And here is the typical lens you see in telescopes, and this lens they designed to look at antimatter in outer space for the either professional or I suppose the amateur astronomer that wants to find new findings in the universe. There's a lot of dark matter out there, there's a lot of antimatter out there, and we don't know much about it, if anything. Normal convex lens, here is their concave lens, they call it. And apparently, supposedly, with this lens, they can see antimatter and invisible entities. This is what they claim. This is extremely extraordinary if it's true, and it's an extreme hoax if it's false. So I'm going to be watching this company very closely, because they're on the stock market. I don't think they could afford to lie with such a huge lie and without anyone finding out. Their stock is going down and out. You know, I guess I am tempted to buy some stock. This is their website. It looks pretty professional. They specialize in more than just telescope lenses. They specialize in different technologies: optical, nuclear, and combustion. So they have 3 main areas of expertise, and this is their optical expertise, this lens, which supposedly can see these entities. Now, these aren't exactly the best pictures of a ITE. They've given the names of these entities an acronym, ITE, which stands for Invisible Terrestrial Entity. I'm just going to tell it like it is and say that this is time-lapse photography. It's most definitely time-lapse photography, period. It's nothing other than time-lapse photography. Now, supposedly it's time-lapse photography of an invisible entity that isn't visible by the human eye, but when they look at this direction through their special lens, through their special concave lenses, which they have patented, that they can see an entity. Now, I personally think they made these images time-lapse so it looked more interesting. I could give you an example of what it would have looked like if there was no time-lapse photography. Perhaps if there was no time-lapse photography, the image would be as boring as this. Now that's a pretty boring image. You know what I mean? That's pretty boring. Let's say the image looked like that. That's pretty boring, alright? So I understand why they spiced it up and made it look like this with the time-lapse photography, but it's a little deceptive. It's a little deceptive. Just show us the photograph without time-lapse and let us see what these entities look like without time-lapse. And this, to me, this looks like stock footage. This looks like stock footage. This looks like filming in an airport. This is not interesting. I don't know what's going on here, but this looks like you're filming a city from a couple miles away. It's not interesting. I don't see this as any evidence to anything. I've seen stock footage that looks exactly like that. Not impressed by these images whatsoever. Now here is an invisible terrestrial entity photographed on September 5th, 2015. So this is a fairly new bunch of information. Now as you can see, this is extremely zoomed up, extremely pixelated. I don't know if I'm looking at the cover of the next Bjork album or if it's some video game artwork from some 8-bit video game, but not impressed by that either. And here is more looking like the image without the time-lapse photography. I suppose this is one of the dark ones. They claim there are two different types of ITEs, dark and light. Now that falls into the most cliche of angel and devil, but it doesn't mean it's a lie. Just because these guys are putting out very controversial information, it doesn't mean that it's bogus. Now I downloaded the 2 press release videos that these guys released, just in case they get deleted. And I went over their videos, and I can't tell if acting is taking place. So their journal, I didn't read the whole thing yet. I do plan on reading the whole thing. I plan on investigating this entire company and this entire thing, because if this is real, like I said, this is the biggest breakthrough in a long time. This is front page news. If we can prove ghosts exist, or demons or angels exist with scientific data, that's extreme. And if these guys' claims are bogus or false, then not only is their stock going to drop farther than it already has, but they're going to go bankrupt. Because you can't make a claim like that in the scientific community and ever be taken seriously ever again. So if they're lying, it's too big of a risk. You know what I mean? They have nothing to gain and everything to lose. You know, they really advertise their telescopes, their lenses. You know, I highly recommend that they grab some of these telescopes they have, point them at some ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities, and videotape them. No still photos, but video, because this is not very impressive. This looks worse than a photograph of Bigfoot, alright? This looks worse than Bigfoot. It looks like something you might have taken under a slide, like it's some totally abstract microbe. These look like slides and they look like microbes. I can't even tell what these are other than manipulated photos. And this looks like stock footage, and here are the better photos. Take a look at these more interesting photos. Okay, so we have a red entity, and we have some light entities, maybe even a cayenne colored entity, maybe some yellow ones. Or we have some simple time-lapse photography, and that they're playing a big prank. These are not snake-shaped entities. This is time-lapse photography. I've seen time-lapse photography a million times, and the fact that all these lights are the same shape is proof that the camera wiggled around and time-lapse option was used. You can grab some sparklers from a fireworks stand and write your name in it, and with time-lapse photography you can make a simple sparkler look like your name. You can grab a cigarette, turn it into the shape of an entity. You can make a cigarette look like an alien. if you use time-lapse photography. So I'm not impressed by the time-lapse. So I just realized what this image looks like without the time-lapse photography. It looks like this. These are the normal images, supposedly, of this. You can even see the cayenne one there and the cayenne one there. And you can't see the red one, but that is that. And when you see that and you see them side by side like this, it's a lot less impressive. Matter of fact, looks kind of like a hoax. Looks a lot like a hoax. Now, I'm not declaring this a hoax yet. I'm going to declare it a hoax if I have some extremely concrete evidence. I just started looking at this today. This is brand new, so I'm not going to debunk it. I'm not a debunker. Someone asks me, oh, how come you don't debunk this or that? Well, debunk has a bad name. Debunkers automatically assume something's false. They don't really dig too deep into it. At least that's what the term has turned into meaning. And I'm not a debunker. I thoroughly research something. Unless it's flat earth. But when it comes to other things, this is interesting enough to me where I'm going to thoroughly research it. But take a look at these photos side by side. The bottom is the still. The top is supposedly same thing with time-lapse photography. And when I matched up this image into Google image search, it told me that it looks a lot like a city from a distance, just like I said. It couldn't find the exact match, but it said, it's probably this. It's probably a city from the distance. Probably city lights in the distance. And that's exactly what it looks like. That's not necessarily what it is. It could be 100 flashlights 10 yards away, taken with a purposeful blur. Who knows what it is? But these guys are putting up extraordinary claims, and they're going to have to back those extraordinary claims up with extraordinary evidence. And someone said, why do you call it extraordinary instead of extraordinary? Because there was this Canadian TV show called Extraordinary back in the 90s, and it kind of messed me up. It was a show called Extraordinary this or that, I can't remember. It was kind of like sightings, and it talked about UFOs and whatnot. Anyway, these pictures are not impressive whatsoever. Side by side, putting Google search image into it, seeing that it looks very similar to a landscape of a city from a distance. And you see the lights in the distance all out of focus. That's what it looks like. I've even photographed fireworks that resemble this. But I'm going to continue to research, and I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. But the fact that they used time-lapse here is a little deceptive. I'm kind of weary of their information now. The biggest red flag is that they claim they can see invisible entities. But the second biggest red flag is the guy goes off in the video, and here's the video, I have it. This guy starts talking about how the entities are surveying military installations. Sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations are what these invisible entities are surveying. So either A, these guys are trying to get the attention of the military to get some kind of military contract. B, they are trying to do that and or really get the interest of the ghost hunters. Maybe they know the scientific community have rejected them. Maybe they're beyond that, and maybe they're just trying to make some money off the ghost hunters. Someone like Stephen Huff. Stephen Huff has spent many thousands of dollars contacting ghosts or demons or who knows what, and he claims he talks to them through these boxes that he buys or that he builds. And he would be the type of person that I think might be interested in purchasing a multi-$1,000 camera that can take photographs of these invisible entities. these aren't so impressive, I would like to see video. So let's watch the clips that I found interesting in this media release video from the company Thunder Energies Corporation.
Galileo originally conceived and constructed his telescope for discovery in deep space. But as we all know, Galileo telescope is today used for all sorts of terrestrial view. Our telescope had essentially the same fate because it was originally conceived for the detection of antimatter galaxy way deep into space.
Wait, did he say interspace or outer space?
Into space.
He called it interspace and not outer space. So are these telescopes designed to look into our bloodstream and into the Martin Short movie, Interspace? That's a little confusing to me, but let's go on.
However, to our great surprise, we discovered that our telescope can equally detect entities in our terrestrial environment that are completely invisible to our eyes, to our binoculars, or to Galileo telescope, but they are fully visible in cameras attached to our telescope, for which reason we call them invisible terrestrial entities, ITE. We have detected at least two types of ITE. The first type, also called dark ITE, essentially consists of entities leaving a dark image in the background of digital cameras attached to our new telescope. The second type, also called bright ITE, essentially consists of entities leaving this time a bright image in the background of digital camera attached to our telescope, often visible without any enlargement.
Okay. Listen, I just backed up on this because this sticks out to me as a red flag. Listen to that again.
Often visible without any enlargement.
Often visible without any enlargement, which makes these photos seem to make a little more sense. If you buy one of these, who knows how much these cameras cost? These invisible terrestrial entities? Perhaps they are so microscopically tiny, like maybe a tiny dime-sized orb, that you need to really zoom in, or maybe they're the size of a flea. I don't know. This really exaggerates the fact that they're huge, but perhaps they are super tiny, which would be sort of misleading if you're expecting to see a full apparition of a full-bodied entity. Let's say this stuff does work. Even seeing a tiny orb move around intelligently with these lenses would be worth getting them for science. So that's kind of a huge catch, that you can't see them very well. You have to zoom in. But he said occasionally you could even see them without zooming in. Let's listen to that one more time.
Often visible without any enlargement. Our discoveries of invisible terrestrial entities has been independently verified by American astronomers, also according to publications available in the internet.
Okay, so their discoveries of ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities, has been independently verified by who? Let's listen to that. Who has it been independently verified by?
Has been independently verified by American astronomers.
American astronomers. Okay, who are these American astronomers? Let's find out right now.
Has been independently verified by American astronomers, also according to publications available in the internet.
Some nondescript, totally generic, unknown American astronomers' findings can also be found on the internet? So he doesn't give their names. I guess I'm just going to have to search for ITE. I'm going to keep searching this case until I figure out if this is a hoax or if this is the real deal. Because either way, it's interesting to me. Either way. I could go either way. I would hope that they invented a telescope or a lens which we can put on a camera where we can see these entities. Now, he seems a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I have seen some crazy things in my life, and I have been contacted by invisible entities. But from what I know of them, being found out by science would be their last wish and their last hope. They would do anything to stay in the shadows of the occult and never be acknowledged by mainstream media or mainstream science as existing. So if this is real, this is a huge breakthrough, and he almost has me until this last statement. Listen to this. It is over the top. I can't explain why he would throw this in here. Take a listen.
I'm a scientist, formerly from MIT, Harvard, and other leading institutions around the world. As such, my duty is that of documenting the existence, quote unquote, of those entities. The question of what those entities are must be answered by our government, because...
Okay, wait. What those entities are must be answered by our government. Why would the government have any say in science? The scientific communities around the world should have the say, not the government. So I found that a little bit off, but listen to this. It even gets more crazy.
Those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance of rather sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations.
Because those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance? What? Did I miss that? Did I miss that in your review? Did I miss that in your PDF? I don't see anywhere in the PDF talking about these entities having unauthorized surveillance of government institutions or whatnot. Let's listen to that again.
What those entities are must be answered by our government, because those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance of rather sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations.
Now that goes from, he starts off talking about Galileo and it all seems pretty legit. He drops MIT and Harvard. Can someone please check that, if this guy has any connections to MIT or Harvard? When he says these entities, out of nowhere, he starts saying that these entities are surveilling, pretty much black ops, secret surveilling you, everyone, including military installations. That is kind of crazy. You're a scientist. You can't prove that, or can you? Please give us evidence of these entities, these ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities, surveying civilian, industrial, and military installations.
Those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance of rather sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations.
I think this guy is trying to pique the interest of the military. Why would he do that? Well, perhaps they want to go to the military because the military has some money. You got to understand, their stock isn't doing so great, and so perhaps they're on their last leg. Maybe they did make this breakthrough, and why hasn't the media picked up on it? I'm just going to do a search of Thunder Energies Corp and ITE, and then I'm going to go to news. Let's see if oh my gosh. Okie doke. Let's get rid of Corp. Thunder Energies ITE. In Google News, there are only 3 results. Only 3. Let's open these 3 news sites up. Let's take a look. We have the PR Newswire. Never heard of it. It's a British news organization that give a very brief summary with the links. Okay, we have the Lavan Guardian, which talks about this in another language. Basically the same thing that they mentioned, if not copy and paste. And then we have pressreleaserocket.net. Okay, now I can tell you I did first hear about this on a paranormal news site, but as you can see, Google doesn't consider those paranormal news sites legitimate. But Google does consider these three sites legitimate. If this company has created a lens that can legitimately see invisible entities, it's a huge breakthrough in science. Perhaps they're being reviewed and someone's trying to verify the data, but you know those American astronomers he was talking about? There is no mention of them anywhere. There are a lot of results for these guys, but they're going to be on UFO type websites. And I'm not going to click on these other websites because, according to Google, they're not legit. These are the only three legit ones. These are the images. Not too impressive, but I'm definitely going to be researching this company and seeing if anything comes from it. So this is just an update on some extreme science, the type of science I'm going to be focusing on. If science ever comes up, it has to be paranormal related, and if you can prove using any scientific method that any type of equipment with any evidence that ghosts exist, that angels, demons exist, I want to know about it. I'm interested in that type of stuff. But I'm not holding my breath either, because I know the nature of these entities. They're smarter than us, they're in a higher dimension, and they don't exactly go around telling people they exist. So I thank you for watching. This has been John Razimus with Hoax Hunter and Occult Unmasked. This is pretty much a merged episode of both. The follow-up could be a Hoax Hunter episode. The follow-up could be an Occult Unmasked episode. Look forward to new episodes. I thank you for watching. This has been John Razimus. Be seeing you.